I'm gonna throw a word towards you. It's a very heavy word, but I think you must have heard this before. Tasawwuf.
Yeah, I have heard of this word. Don't know what it means.
I would want to explore it with you today. And the reason for picking this word is because what Tasawwuf literally means is a kind of spiritual lens through which you start seeing reality, or spirituality to be simple. We did discuss a bit about spirituality and mysticism in the last episode, so we can clearly define the boundaries. Okay? When you're saying spirituality, it is in concern with what you as an individual are doing. Okay? It has to do with action and then pondering over that action. When it comes to mysticism, you completely delete yourself from the equation. So, spirituality is, in a way, a path to finding your most true and authentic self. And the easiest way to do that in spirituality is actually to work on your breath. Now, may I ask you why you think majority of high achievers, people like billionaires or CEOs or athletes or actors or politicians, why do they keep burning out? You never see them performing consistently. Why do they burn out? And these burnouts are usually shown in like scandals, or I don't know, some kind of error they pull off. That's how burnouts manifest, right?
Failures like Michael Jordan playing baseball, or Elon Musk's failures early on with SpaceX. But the thing is, they fail because they know this, as far as I understand it, that failure is not the end. It is the step towards success. You need to fail in order to get to a point where you want to be at. So they go through that suffering on purpose. That's what I think.
Okay. Now let's start breaking it down.
Okay.
So before we go explain the concept of Tasawwuf or Islamic spirituality, we need to first see how Islam, or specifically Sufism, looks at spirituality. Okay, even if we refer to the Quran gives us 3 stations or 3 modes a human being has, everyone has by default. Okay, the first one is Akil, which literally translates as intellect.
Okay.
The second word, which I want to use, is Nufs. Okay, I have confirmed this with Islamic scholars. Nufs literally means your ego or your self.
Okay, that makes sense to some extent because...
But this is strictly in Arabic. If we are translating the Nufs into another language, like for example in Urdu, for example, so the Nufs becomes something different. Okay, but on its core, Nufs is your nervous system, your self, your identity. And the third part is what you call the Ruh, or the soul. When we look at neuroscience, we see these defined as your mind, your heart, and your gut. When we're looking at spirituality, the order given to us is the other way around. Okay? Akil, then your ego, and then the spirit or the soul. Okay, Ruh is your spirit and soul. It works for both of these terms. And the main reason you see a lot of high achievers failing or burning out, because forgive me for saying this, but I have had a life where I've been a high achiever when I wanted to be. Never really faced a problem until I felt no connection to what I was doing. I could not relate to why I'm doing this project, why I'm doing this job. And that was the cause of my burnout. Now, if you deconstruct this from a neuroscientific as well as a Sufi perspective, they're grounding in their motivation. Okay? It's coming from their body, it's coming from their environment, but it's not coming from their soul or their consciousness. Like, for example, an athlete. Let's take an athlete. Because athletes usually start training at a very young age.
Yes.
Good athletes start as young as 14, 15, maybe even younger. So by the time they achieve what they've been training for, the body or the nafs or yourself would tell you if you achieve X, you will be happy. Right? That's why you motivate yourself. You're from a ghetto, you know for a fact if you become a good athlete, you will have enough money that you will never have to worry about survival again.
Okay. All right.
Everybody does that. I've done that. You've done that.
Yeah. Go on.
The problem comes, or what you call the spiritual flaw in this concept of self-sufficiency, is that you think you are the one doing these things.
If you are not doing it, then who is?
That's where you need to bring in the concept of Tawakul. You're not doing anything. You're just choosing what to do. It's happening on its own.
What about the endless hours spent at the gym or training or focusing on your diet and really designing your whole life to achieve that specific goal? You are not doing that?
Of course you are, but you're not completely in control of it. Okay, you go to the gym. You start exercising. At max, what you can do is lift weights. Right? You're not 100% in control of how your muscles will react to that lifting of weights.
Oh yeah, that is true, because what you're essentially doing is you are pushing your muscles past a certain limit so they develop or they evolve into something better, bigger, stronger, because that's what you're doing. You are pushing yourself ahead of the limits that you already have.
Let me just define these boundaries. You're pushing your nufs.
Yeah, you could say that, yes. Nufs is, if you call nufs your body or yourself, yes, you are pushing yourself, because nobody likes to lift weights.
Okay,
doesn't make sense.
Let's translate nufs into neuroscience.
Okay.
Let's call it your nervous system.
All right.
Okay, it's coming from the same sound, the same root word actually. Nufs, nervous system. It disconnected in the background.
Yeah.
Let me justify it for you.
Yeah, it's funny the way all these things connect sometimes.
Because these technologies are literally coming from sound, from vibration. If you actually want to define something to a core organic level that everybody can connect to it, you have to use these phonetic sounds. Na, ba, a, kha. You see these in every single language, even in English. It's for a reason. Now, your nervous system is designed to protect you no matter what, right?
Agreed.
Otherwise, it has no reason to exist. So the moment you achieve whatever you're trying to achieve by going to the gym, by practicing hardcore, by getting hold of that trophy, you just completed a task. But the nervous system needs a reason to exist. So what will the nervous system do? It will create a new task. You can't stop it. That's what the nervous system is designed to do. It will forcibly find another challenge, find another problem you must solve. Because the high you feel, the peace, the calmness you feel after achieving a task which your nervous system is directing, that's what, 15 minutes, 20 minutes, maximum 1 day. Because what's basically happening? The body is either releasing dopamine or serotonin or oxytocin.
Okay.
This is creating a loop. This is a very dangerous loop. We call this the spiritual flaw in high achievers. Because whatever they're trying to achieve is based on this notion that once I achieve it, I will not need anything else to be self-sufficient.
One could argue that, yes.
Well, this concept of self-sufficiency called Istigna. Okay, this is the spiritual flaw here. If you are thinking about self-sufficiency, you think you are the one arranging everything, managing everything, creating everything.
I see what you're saying. Okay.
And this I've personally gone through. My realization about all of these things hit me at the age of 22, 23. That was my first complete spiritual awakening. Because I, on a personal level, was a very good actor when I was in my school, in my university. It was very easy for me to lie to myself. Okay, so it was very easy for me to propagate that lie as something which I genuinely believe in, because I could trick my body. That stopped working after. Why? Because I successfully lied to every single one I could find. Now there was no one to lie to. They all believe my lie. It's not a lie for them anymore. They actually think of me as I have propagated myself.
And if you lie for long enough, it becomes a truth.
So my lie became my truth. My lie that I am trying to understand what you call Sufism, because that's what I was following in my 20s, actually became my reality. My Fana happened when my DMN system, okay, it got completely satisfied. Now my DMN system says to me, you need to isolate yourself from all of these so that you can focus on what you want to achieve. And that, according to my studies and my career, was becoming a filmmaker.
Did you ever find any success in that?
Here's the funny part. As long as you're chasing what your nervous system is telling you to, you're just after 3 chemicals. Even if I achieve it, the peace, that frequency, whatever you want to call it, it doesn't last. When we're talking about Fana or ego death, we are literally turning the ego off. So we can observe where our consciousness is coming from. As long as we don't do that, the nervous system will keep creating loops and fractals within that. You have to understand, our society has progressed by shutting the ego off.
And that is the paradox, right? Because as human beings, we are it would be nice if we can all transcend from our current state of being. But the thing is that transcendence on a spiritual level is counterintuitive in terms of in the face of progress. So if you want to transcend your material situation, material environment, you need to shut that part of yourself down. Only then you can transcend. Only then you can progress materially in this world. But if you want to progress spiritually, if you want to understand more about yourself and the environment around you, the surroundings, it can get very difficult to progress in the material world. You cannot then make this progress of leaps and bounds in tech, commerce, language, literature, history. But the golden age of Islam, it was a movement that was driven by religion itself, or at least what's the word I'm looking for? It was an eschatological drive. So is what's happening in the United States, in Israel, in Russia, in China, in Korea, North Korea to be exact. Hell, even in India to some extent. They all need this drive. So either we are using the spiritual drive as a catalyst to progress in the material world, but the way it is manifesting itself is, well, for the lack of a better word, it's not pretty. There is something wrong here. Like, I mean, if you are trying to follow your scriptures, God, or whatever it is, it kind of takes you sometimes in a very dark place. And I know it's not, maybe it's by design, maybe it's not.
It's by design.
Really?
Yeah, the Quran mentions it. I highlighted an ayah from the Quran for this exact reason. Go ahead, read it out. Right here.
The spiritual flaw, that's how you preface it.
Yeah.
This directly contradicts the core Islamic tenet of Tawakul, which is reliance on God. The Quran warns, no disaster strikes except by permission of Allah. And whoever believes in Allah, He will guide his heart. It's from the Quran chapter 64, verse 11. So when a person operates under the illusion that their will is supreme, the slightest disaster, a loss, a bad performance, market crash, doesn't just break their strategy, it breaks their very identity, which was built on that illusion.
It was anchored in it, yeah.
The breakdown, the ego collapses because the foundation it was built on, I am in control, was a lie. This leads to anxiety, panic, and depression. Well, yeah, I mean, this is like, absolutely, because, I mean, as human beings, we don't have control over our surroundings. We can affect them in a meaningful or a meaningless manner, depends on what you're trying to do here, but you cannot have full control. Hell, you cannot even have full control over yourself. I mean, we can die at this very moment, both of us. I mean, this could be a last breath. Right now, talking, just having a discussion. We could die at this very moment. We don't have any control over that. None whatsoever.
Okay, the way I approach this is with my clients and patients is I give them what you call holistic breathing exercises. Holistic breathing literally means breathing from both your nostrils.
It's very difficult to do, to be honest.
You're not supposed to breathe from both your nostrils. Okay, your nostrils, they modulate depending on what the body needs. If your body needs to think, your left nostril gets activated, for example, and if your body needs to do physical action, the right nostril gets activated. When you're activating both the nostrils, you're forcing your brain to think that you don't need to do anything right now, everything is available. This is, you're doing this on a hardware reset level. This is how you do it. You just inhale deeply, hold it within you for just 1 or 2 seconds, and exhale as hard as you can from the mouth. You try doing this 2 or 3 times. Your anxiety, your depression, your mental disorders, everything vanishes.
I mean, that just sounds too good to be true, because there are,
It's literally that easy.
I mean, people are facing.
Why are they facing these things? Because once you try this technique, this is a short-term technique. Their thought processes are not anchored in the right way to sustain holistic breathing.
I mean, this could also, I mean, look, I do agree with you for the most part. Because, like, the Tourette's syndrome, what is that? That is your body reacting to a stimuli that is not there.
Yeah.
It is holding in something, it is holding in trauma. And it is just because you've held it in for so long, you're trying to control that demon for so long that now your body has started to give up.
Yeah.
And it's not under your control anymore. And I do understand these breathing exercises could help a person in that situation. But breathing itself, it feels like it's not enough.
I'll explain.
Just let me, if you could,
Sure.
Just let me finish my chain of thought here, because, I mean, people go through their hardships, good and bad. Sometimes it's extreme, sometimes it's a little bit not that extreme, but, and even I've been in therapy sessions where after blabbering for an hour, all I get in return is breathe.
Yeah.
Sure, it's a bit more complex than just the word breathe, but the summary or the conclusion is that I forgot to breathe.
Yeah.
And the first time I heard this from my therapist, I got so pissed off that I stormed out of the room after I cursed the living hell out of that nice therapist lady that was trying to help me out. I still feel bad about that. But I was going through something. I was having panic attacks. But then when I went home, she texted me a few videos. She was like, just watch these videos. And when I clicked, it was just, she asked me to put my headphones on. I put some of my headphones on, and it was just sound of waves crashing in the ocean and somebody teaching me or reminding me, not teaching me. You're not supposed to learn how to breathe. You're just supposed to remember it. Everybody knows how to do it.
You need to unlearn how to breathe.
You could say that. So basically, it was just a reminder of how to breathe. And it was exactly what you're saying. Just breathe in from your nose, breathe out from your mouth, and hold it in for a few seconds. Count if you have to. There are different techniques, but if you actually strip away all the steps, it's just breathing in and breathing out and not doing anything else in that moment.
Yeah.
Yes, it is very effective, but I feel like people need more. I mean, you cannot just treat a trauma that has been inside you for such a long time, and that's how trauma sets in. The longer it's in there, the more damage it wrecks to your nervous system and your body and your mind. So I think there is something more to it. It's not just breathing, man. I don't agree with that.
Okay. When you're running, your breathing changes.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yes.
When you're sleeping, your breathing changes.
Yep.
When you're thinking, eating, your breathing changes. Spirituality or breathwork is noticing these patterns and doing them in reverse to attain that same state, and it comes automatically.
What does that mean?
If I want to be at peace, I need to observe my breath when I'm naturally at peace and replicate that breathwork when I'm not at peace.
Oh, okay.
I would give at least this much credit to your therapist that she wasn't lying, but she didn't communicate properly.
Or maybe I wasn't ready to listen. Look, it was my first session ever, and I was in the middle of a panic attack, so
okay,
it was all me.
The only way to effectively deal with a panic attack is to match the breathing pattern of the patient. If she's talking to you in a very calm breath and you are aggravated as fuck, she won't be able to communicate.
Yeah, that's what was happening.
Okay.
She was way too calm, and it was, for some reason, it was making me angrier.
Because you can't relate to it. How
Yeah.
can she understand me on a lower frequency?
Yeah, because look how calm she is. She has no idea what I'm going through right now at this very moment. How in the hell can this person help me out in any way? I was doubting her credentials, even though I had no place to do that. I have no idea how counseling works. It's
Exactly.
not my field. But my instinct was, she doesn't know what the hell she's talking about, man.
Oh, she doesn't know what she's talking about.
Oh, maybe she does. I don't know. You don't know.
There are breathing techniques which only the shamans, only the Buddhists, and only the Sufis know, and they do not give it out. I know
Okay.
2 of these.
Why in the hell do they do that? Because this is knowledge that could help so many people. Why withheld information and knowledge? It doesn't make sense.
Because if that knowledge goes out, it will be marketed and sold as a product.
It already is, man. Come
No,
on.
it's not. Trust
Yes,
me.
it is.
There are breathing techniques which you call DMT breathing techniques.
Wait, what now? DMT. Isn't that
a drug?
Yeah.
It's something your body naturally produces.
Oh, you're talking about that DMT that we produce naturally. Okay.
Okay. People who used to use paganistic or pantheonic technologies to access their consciousness would use DMT externally, ingest it. Okay. But if we go into Hermetic practices or Abrahamic practices or even Sufi practices, they're against using compounds. You see that, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, compounds are basically, it's a shortcut. You are cutting all the suffering that you need to go through when you go through these compounds. I have heard this so many times that no, you're not supposed to use drugs. Drugs are just like, it's literally you being lazy on your path to enlightenment.